This is Studio 809.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Outdoors Hiking Bob podcast. I am your host, Hiking Bob Falcone, and you can find me on my website, hikingbob.com. Everything's there. I'm not going to bore you with all the links. Just go to hikingbob.com, and you can also email me if you have any questions, comments, suggestions for people or topic matter to have on the podcast. But go to hikingbob.com, check everything out there. Let us know what you think. We'd be happy to hear from you. Joining me today is my co-host, Wild Westendorf.
Hey everyone, it's Kevin Wild Westendorf here, and you can find me on Facebook and Instagram at Wild Westendorf, and on my website wildwestendorf.com.
Great. Kevin, good to have you back. Welcome to the new year. I know we're 2 weeks into the new year. I don't know if you can still say Happy New Year when you're 2 weeks in. I think if the first time you've seen somebody the first couple of weeks, you could probably say Happy New Year to them. This past weekend, we had snow.
Oh, a lot. Yeah.
A lot of snow. The snow came in Thursday and Friday. It was also miserable cold. I did some snowshoeing Friday afternoon late in Garden of the Gods. Took some great pictures. Garden of the Gods was the only park that was open to vehicle traffic in Colorado Springs. The other ones all stayed closed to the next day. But Garden of the Gods, I ran into the park manager there. She said, yeah, we were able to get open. So we just opened up, which I thought was way cool. All the other ones are staying closed. Did a little snowshoeing late in the day on the Palmer Trail, which is on the far west side of the park, and got some great late afternoon sunset.
Oh, I saw
pictures.
those, yeah.
Yeah, I was real happy with those. They're really great. And then the next day, me and a group of people, it started out as 2 of us, then it was 3 of us, then it was 4 of us, then it was 5 of us. Ended up going to Mueller State Park, which, I love for snowshoeing.
Yeah.
Because they get a bunch of snow up there. And they still only had about 8 or 9 inches, not a whole lot more than we did down here, but it was enough to go snowshoeing on. We hit the trail about 9 o'clock on Saturday, and I think, well, let's see how things are. We were breaking fresh. We did more than 2.5 miles. I think 2 miles of that was we were breaking fresh powder.
Oh, cool. Okay.
Which was the best conditions. Some of that we were on a trail that was groomed for cross-country skiers, and good trail etiquette. You don't go on the groomed part if you're, especially in snowshoes. So we stayed off to the side of that, so we were still breaking fresh snow on the side of this trail. And then we finally hit another trail that I think only one other snowshoer would be on because it wasn't beat up too much. But you forget how much hard work snowshoeing is.
Yeah.
That 2.5-ish miles was like 5 miles of hiking, because it's even in fresh powder like we have here. You're carrying more clothing. The snowshoes are heavy, and you're clomping through that. It was a lot of work. We went with somebody who was her first time snowshoeing. She did great, but it was a workout for her. But we had a blast. It was about 9 degrees when we started, but the sun was out. There was no wind.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Whatsoever. So it was like the perfect snowshoeing in this Colorado dry powder that we all love. And if you've never hiked in the powder here, if you live someplace in the Midwest or the East Coast or something like that, where that snow is heavy, wet stuff. The one trick I was pointing out to everybody who was there, especially one couple, they were newer to snowshoeing, and then one person I told you it was her first time snowshoeing, is in this dry powder. You sometimes, it's not a bad idea to go up a size in your snowshoes.
Oh yeah.
Last time I was able to snowshoe was 2 years ago, because last year timing wasn't right. We didn't have much snow, and when it did snow, I wasn't here. We were snowshoeing in Mueller, and they had about 1.5 feet of snow, and it was so dry that even in our snowshoes, we were sinking in up to our knees.
Oh, wow.
Because
Okay.
the powder is so light. So we talked about, how to size snowshoes. You size them by length.
Yes.
And that's depending on your weight. And of course, the trick is it's not your weight, it's the weight of you and your clothing and your backpack. And you go to the manufacturer's documentation, whether it's on their website or printed documentation, and you look at that, and it tells you for that weight what size snowshoes you should get. But in this really dry powder we get here, it's almost a good idea to go up a size.
Yeah.
And if you fall in between, go up to the next size, because if you don't, then you're going to sink in. But even with the sizes we were wearing, we were sinking in up to our knees 2 years ago. But this time it wasn't nearly as bad. We'd never hit, the only time we ever hit, surface, ground, was when we were underneath some trees that really shielded the snowfall.
I see.
You clomb through that, it was fine. But it was a great day for snowshoeing. It was just as beautiful as you could imagine. And I imagine by now, it's, trumped down a lot. We were the only people on the trail when we started, but there were a lot of people at the parking lots when we got back. So people were going out there. And we were out there for a few hours, taking it in and enjoying it and having a good time and telling stories and doing stuff like that. So anyway, I don't know if you had a chance to get out in the snow at all, but if you did, I hope you had a good time.
I did a little bit in a Red Rock Canyon open space, but the last time I snowshoed was a couple years ago, and it was in Red Rock Canyon, and it was right after fresh snow. And it was 7 degrees out, but like it was for you, there was no wind or anything. There was sun, so it felt great. Like, it can be sub-zero, but if the sun is out and there's no wind and you have enough layers, like, it's fine. And
you generate a lot of heat snowshoeing.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. And it was 7 o'clock in the morning or 8 o'clock in the morning, I think. So, like, I was the first one to break trail. It was wonderful. But when I went out on Saturday, it was nice. Like, but it had warmed up a lot. So at that point, I didn't bring the snowshoes because the snow was getting slushy at that time.
Yeah, and one thing to point out, Red Rock Canyon, which is an insanely busy park here in Colorado Springs. As anybody who's been here knows. I mean, they've constantly built new parking lots and added on to the parking lots, made the parking lots bigger. It still fills up. It is still a good place to go snowshoeing if you get there right away after the snow.
Oh, yeah.
You can get, like you did, and I've done it a couple of times. I've actually been out there on some years when it's still snowing and almost everybody's staying home, and I go out there and hit the trails in the snowshoes. By the next day, everybody's been out there, tromped them, stomped them down, which is okay. There's nothing wrong with that, but it's not the greatest for snowshoeing. So you could do that while you're out there. One thing to remember, folks, is we're recording this on Monday, so 2 days before you hear it. By now, this snow is melting as fast as it could be.
Oh, yeah.
Matter of fact, Sunday, I went hiking with a friend in Ute Valley Park, and not only was there no need for snowshoes, but barely the need for even yak tracks. We had them with us, traction devices. We had them with us, and we had them on in the beginning, and then we both eventually took them off. Because it was slushy. So this stuff melts really quickly, which means, of course, we're going into the mud season. And for the next week, it's going to be muddy. So do everybody a favor. Stay out of the mud as much as you can. If you're out there hiking, and you could start off on dry trail and run into mud a mile back, everybody gets it. If you're running into the mud, stay on the trail. Don't go around it and widen the trail and do trail damage. And like I said in my last newsletter last week, if you don't like getting muddy, if for some reason, you don't want your pristine hiking boots to get muddy or your nice clothes to get muddy, then stay home or go on a paved trail or do something else. But it's going to be mud season, and it's going to be ugly, and it's going to be messy, and the best thing you can do is try to avoid as much as possible. So I'm not going to get a lot of hiking in this week. Fortunately, I got a lot of stuff on my calendar, so it'll keep me occupied. I'll, walk coal around the neighborhood a couple of times, and we did that today. But it's melting like it does here really fast. And I think what throws people off, especially newcomers here, is the temperature could be below freezing. But what happens is the sun is very intense. The ground retains a lot of that heat from the sun, and it'll melt even though it's below freezing.
Yeah. Yep.
In the bright sunlight. So you say, it's 20 degrees. It's not going to melt. Trust me, it's already melted. We were not above freezing for a couple of days, and it was already melting. So it'll happen here pretty quickly. And especially the days leading up to the storm, it was really warm. So the ground is retaining a lot of that heat, and even though it'll melt, it'll snow and stick to it, that heat is still radiating off the ground, so it's going to melt pretty quickly. So if you're out there hiking and you want to go for a hike and the trails, just don't even bother calling the parks and asking them. For the next week, it's going to be muddy. Just assume it's going to be muddy, figure out it's going to be muddy, and either avoid the trails or just prepare to get muddy. Stay on the trail. If it's muddy, go through the middle of it.
Yep.
But really, the best thing to do is just try to avoid the muddy trails. But just to figure for the next week, it's going to air on Wednesday, at least through the next weekend. It's going to be muddy out there. Just get ready for it.
And I found that there are a lot of parts of Red Rock Canyon open space, White Acres open space. There's
that's on the southeast corner of the park there.
Yes,
backing up to section 16,
and especially Bear Creek Park. I wouldn't say Palmer Park, but U Valley Park is another one that tends to dry up the fastest that I found because they have the least amount of shade.
So they're going to melt first, but also they're going to dry out first. And another trick is if you're going out early in the morning, when it's still below freezing, that ground is still frozen. It might be uncomfortable because it'll be all uneven and broken up, but you can get out there. If you get out there early, when that ground is still frozen, you can avoid some of the mud too. So keep that in mind too. But just assume through the weekend, it's just going to be muddy.
Yep.
You're going to get dirty. And if you don't like it, and I'm not saying that to be mean to anybody, but some people go through, I don't want to get muddy. Then, you're not going to have an option.
Part of it, yeah.
It's going to be muddy. Mm-hmm. It's welcome to hiking in Colorado in the winter and the spring. And this is going to last. I think we're expecting still a pretty warm spring the rest of this winter and the spring. But we get our most snow, believe it or not, in Colorado Springs. Not in December, not in January, not even February. It's March.
Oh, yeah.
Is probably and I remember correctly, is the wettest, most snowiest month in Colorado Springs in the Pikes Peak region, March going into April. And we've talked about it here before. You're not safe in Colorado Springs till Mother's Day in May, midway through May.
Maybe, yeah.
And I've got pictures of being in Guard of the Gods on 6 inches of fresh snow in past years on Mother's Day. So just assume the most snow, and of course, the bad thing about that is that's when we also get our wettest snow because it's warming up. So we get that wetter, heavier snow, but still nothing like that East Coast. It might be ice, and stuff.
It never fails. I always try to plan something for Mother's Day for my mom, and the weather can be amazing for a month, and then Mother's Day happens, and it's like, bam!
There's certain things that happen around holidays. Like we know around here, Halloween, we don't typically get snow on Halloween, but Halloween's just going to be cold.
Oh, yeah.
It doesn't matter what it's like the day before, the day after, but Halloween, it's going to be just a miserable cold night out there. It just happens. No idea why it happens. Why haven't had a white Christmas in I don't know how long. It just doesn't happen. Just things do or do not happen on certain holidays. So, yeah, I mean, we'll see how. Obviously, we have a long way to go. We're only in mid-January. There's still months to go, winter and spring. But just assume that it's, we're going to get more snow. And the later we get into the season, the wetter that snow is going to be. So it's going to be the heavy stuff that's going to, hang on power lines, bend trees, and all that kind of stuff.
That's right, yeah.
And be harder on your snowshoes, harder to shovel. I love this light stuff. My house faces south. It's on a hill. I rarely ever have to shovel anything because the first sunny day, it melts off. And since I'm on a slope, it just runs off into the gutter. I rarely ever have to shovel anything here. One of the things I learned from living in South Dakota years ago, buy a house that faces south.
Yeah.
And it's on an angle, so everything runs off. And that's what I did when I moved here. Like, I remember that lesson that I learned.
Yeah, my apartment faces north. So the parking lot is always iced over, and where the snowplow puts all the piles of snow, they stay there forever. Yeah. But in the summertime, the sun just bakes the apartment for 8 hours a day at least. Yep. So it's not fun.
You give up one thing for the other. That's why I have so many. If you look down the street and Kevin, you see, you come here to the house, you see a lot of the house on my street don't have any trees. My house has probably got the most trees on it. And that's why, because in the summer, I want that shade.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
And one of the reasons why we didn't get solar power for the house, we looked at it, was we have so many trees that we would have had to either chop the trees down entirely or cut the tops off of them for the solar panels to get it. And I said, well, that's counterproductive because I need that shade. We ended up not going to solar because of all these trees, but they also shade my house a lot in the summer. So,
and with that shade, you're saving money on bills.
Yeah,
too,
the only thing that would happen if I cut down the trees to get solar power, the air conditioning and stuff would have to work harder, regardless of where the power came from, creating more emissions and all that other stuff. I'll pass on the solar power. I would still love to have solar power here, but it's a one-story house. If I had a 2-story house, I probably would have been above that, but it's a 1-story house, so it's just not going to work. Anyway, nonetheless. Kevin, a couple of things I wanted to talk about today. There were 2 things that came out in the past week or so. One of them is, and we've talked about it before, and we had the previous director of Colorado Springs Parks on here to talk about the system-wide, citywide park system master plan. Last one was done in 2014, so they're working on a new one. right now. You know, they had a lot of public engagement last summer on this, and they released this past week the Park System Master Plan Assessment. And what this is basically talking to the people and the surveys they did to find out what people need and what they want. And I'm going to summarize this. There's a link in my newsletter this past week. So if you get my newsletter, there was a link to it this past week. If you don't get the newsletter, I'll put a link in the show notes. But basically, a couple of takeaways from this is the top 5 activities that people who replied to the surveys. So this is their top 5 activities: walking, hiking, and running. And I can't go into all the specifics of this because it would just take too much time. And a lot of this is very visual. There's a lot of graphs and stuff. Cycling on paved and natural surfaces, natural and wildlife education, swimming, outdoor fitness. And then they break that down into how they determine that and the needs. And walking, hiking, and running had the highest needs in there. And what I found, and I'm not doing the best job I can to explain this. Again, I just want to summarize a couple of things, and I'm pulling this up as we're talking here. I have looked at this and read it over, but I wanted to go back in here and look at this a little bit more. But one of the things, when it comes down to what people said they needed in our park system, and I think some of this is not going to be a surprise to many of you, and I think it's also not going to be a surprise to people who listen to this podcast, because there's some things that we've talked about quite a bit on here about what we'd like to see in our park system. One of the things was that what people really want is they wanted more taking care of what we already have. While the top program
makes sense.
And the top program is there to purchase more land, but one of the things people are saying is we really need to take care of what we already have. And that's a common theme, and because people are seeing that things are not being taken care of. And the problem is a lot of that, the funding for that comes out of general fund support, not out of the top program. And as we saw this past year, going into 2026, there's significant cuts to the Parks Department. So they're going to have actually less money to do that kind of stuff with. But people want things taken care of. One of the top things on the list that people want is more bathrooms. They want more bathrooms, which we've talked about
many times.
Because here's what people listed as barriers to facilities. So things that keep them from using facilities. Number one is the people experiencing homelessness, the presence of those people who are homeless. And this chart has the responses by Colorado Springs and then nationwide average, far above the nationwide average, and people concerned about that. Security being insufficient. There's no national average for that. That was pretty high. That was the number 2 thing. Lack of restrooms was the number 1 thing, or number 3 thing that people said kept them from going out to using some of the parks. Lack of parking. Parking is an issue anywhere. We only have so much space. You go to North Cheyenne Canyon, there's only so many parking you can fit in there. They've done work to improve that by clearing out parking lots that were just dirt lots and paving them and marking them and actually increasing it. But in some places, there's only so much you can do. It's
been great work, too. Yeah. I thought what they did in Cheyenne Canyon was fantastic.
Yeah.
Even along the road up there, a lot of those side lots have been paved and turned into actual spots to park.
They kind of organize things, not so haphazard.
Yeah. And I get that it's frustrating, but just you physically can only fit so much space in the canyon.
Right. One of the things on here down near the bottom was the fees are too high. I'm assuming they're talking about like for sports, because obviously the parks are free. There's no fees to use the park. They must talk about. Anyway, lack of restrooms, lack of parking. I don't know what is offered. That was below the national average. I don't know how that happens. It takes you 10 seconds to Google where can I go for a hike. I don't know the locations of parks or trails. Again, I'm not sure how you miss that.
Yeah.
I commented this on once at a TOPS meeting, was people would say, I didn't know. And I didn't know that this was happening, that was happening. Like, we can seem to know everything that our favorite celebrity is doing, but nobody can seem to Google something. And anyway, that's their complaint anyway.
And Google Maps and Apple Maps, which I don't really use, they both have trails that are built into their apps. Right. So if you look up trails, and it's not, you're not going to find obscure trails on them, obviously, but
you'll find official maintained trails.
Yeah, and those are very, very easy to find. They are marked on the map. Even if you don't look up a trail, like later, it'll show you a trail in the area. Plus, there's plenty of other apps to use to find trails. Yeah.
And here's the one thing that was interesting: facilities and amenities. Facilities and amenities. Top needs number one was restrooms. We've talked about this before. 2 parks in my neighborhood here, one of which has a baseball field, it had a swimming pool. It's been closed because it's sinking into the mine shafts underneath. And it has tennis courts and a playground. So people come here. It's not a neighborhood park. It's a destination park. People come here because they're coming here to play baseball or coming here to play tennis, or actually they restriped them for pickleball. But there's only one porta potty there, and that's one that actually myself and my wife paid for a couple of years back when they had some funding issues, and we actually paid for it for a couple of months until they got their funding. And then another park in my neighborhood has a big picnic pavilion and a baseball field and a playground and no bathroom facility. So how do you invite people to use your picnic area and you don't have even just a porta potty, even though there's a shelter for a porta potty? And I get it, these things all cost money, but it seems to me to be kind of weird that you have these facilities that you want people to come and use, and you build and you spend money to build. So like the picnic facility is not just, the pavilion is not just for neighbors, obviously. We picnic in our own backyard. It's for people to come in from other parts of town, but yet you don't have a bathroom for people to use. And there's nothing nearby.
Yeah.
There's no place to go nearby. So that's top of the list. I really would like to see the city really step up their game and find a way. And I found out that bathroom porta potties are not that expensive. I think it's $140 a month for a standard bathroom porta potty. It's a little bit more for an ADA compatible one. A little bit more, like I think $10 or $20 more a month, and that includes weekly cleaning.
Yeah,
it's not horribly, but now I get there's a crap load of city parks, but your little neighborhood pocket parks probably don't need that because they're there serving the neighbors in that neighborhood, then they can just go home. But when you have a bigger park that's bringing in people from outside the neighborhood, they need a place to go. That's number one on the list here, things that people need. Natural surface trails, people want more of those. I'm not sure where they want those. We have a bunch of those, but people say they want it. Outdoor swimming pools, that's an issue. There's only a few swimming pools in town. The one in my neighborhood here at Portal Park, this whole neighborhood is built on top of mine shafts. That pool has been sinking into the mine shafts underneath the mine subside. There's actually going to be some grant money coming. There is grant money coming to hopefully remediate that, but that's not going to kick in for another year. There are other pools in town that have been leaking. The one over in Wilson Ranch has been leaking. It's not over mine shafts, but it's been leaking. It costs a crap load of money to do that, but people want more outdoor swimming pools. We're paying attention to paved and hard surface trails. That's number 4. That's interesting because a lot of people have been complaining that the city is paving too many trails, but people say they want that. And to be realistic, people say, you're paving all the trails. Well, they're not paving all the trails. They're paving the urban connector trails that run across town. I will tell you this, it's about $800,000 to pave 1 mile of trail.
Jeez.
Between $800,000 and $1 million to pave, $800,000 and $1 million to pave 1 mile of trail, which, trust me, is not paved to the same spec as a road. On the other hand, it cost a tenth of that, or even less, to just make a natural surface trail. So you can say you want more paved and hard surface trails, but it is a lot of money. And then, of course, you have to upkeep those. Yeah. And if people who've lived here for a while may remember, some years back, when Mayor Suthers was mayor, there was a Tabor refund that was proposed, extra money, and the voters approved money to keep that within the parks part. It was a couple $1 million, and a lot of that was actually spent on paved trails that were so bad shape they had to be repaved. with concrete or asphalt. I forget which one they did. Asphalt's cheaper, but concrete lasts longer. But that had to, so it's not only expensive to build, but expensive to maintain, much more than a natural surface trail. They want more indoor swimming pools. Probably makes more sense than outdoor swimming pools, lakes and fishing areas. We only have so many lakes in Colorado Springs. I don't know how we can get you more.
Yeah.
But if you want more fishing areas on that, I get that. That has to be coordinated with CPW because they'd have to make sure that they stocked them. That's more of the state issue, but the city can definitely work with the state to get them stocked. And of course, people have to have fishing licenses. They probably weren't thinking about that part. I need fishing licenses. Further down the list, museums, more nature centers, community gardens, nature and wildlife observation areas, outdoor social gathering spaces, indoor fitness spaces. This town has gyms all over the place. Shelters, picnic pavilions, dog parks for off-leash fenced areas. We talked about that in Portal Park. We have a number of tennis courts there. Some of them are in such bad shape they've been fenced off. One of the things that the neighborhood is considering working with parks is maybe rip out the surface there and turn it into a dog park. It's already fenced in. You rip out the surface and you put in natural surface. You make it into a fenced-in dog area. It's something that can happen. More playgrounds, outdoor exercise courts and equipment, gymnasiums, splash pads, canoe and kayak launches. Where do you want to do that? Down Monument Creek? I don't know where you're going to launch it. Bike park. These are things that are lowest needs. Bike park, indoor ice rinks, pickleball courts, sports complexes, golf course. The city already has 2 really great golf courses. Sports field, tennis courts, sand and volleyball court. Anyway, there's a big list of things here. Top needs for programming, this is a little different, is walking and running and hiking. I think they probably want like group events, cultural activities. These are things that are more in the group type stuff. So anyway, a pretty interesting thing. This is not done by any stretch of the imagination. This is going to go in front of more public input and just see what happens here. It's broken down by council district. My council district is district number 5. And that is kind of the interior part of the city. So one of the things people want more of is natural surface trails, more restrooms, more paved and hard surface trails. But we're in the interior part of the city, so doing natural surface trails is kind of difficult. The interior part, District 5 does include Palmer Park, which has a lot of trails. So we'll just see how this goes. But anyway, check out this thing. They're going to be looking for more public input. So there's going to be a link, and you could sign up to get newsletters on the progress of the master plan. But by all means, I think it's important for people to be a part of this. One of the things in here is top funding priorities, the top choices. By a long shot, almost 56% taking care of existing park and recreation facilities and infrastructure, things like minor repairs, mowing, and stuff like that. One of the things we found out with this budget is that the city is going to try to keep everything, up to date as much as they can. They're going to change the mowing and watering and fertilizing schedule. So you might go a few days longer between mowing operations.
Okay.
Because, the more frequently, they're typically done by contractors. In a lot of cases, the more frequently you go out, the more it costs. So they try to stretch it out so they don't have to go out as often. And then 25% remodeling and improving park infrastructure, with replacing paved playgrounds. In my park here, they had to take out the sliding board on the one thing because it was not safe, and they don't make parts for it anymore. It's been there for years. Repaving trails, refurbishing facilities, and then 19% keeping up with new growth by adding parks, facilities, trails, recreation. So interestingly, not so interesting. We've been hearing this for a while. The number one priority is they want people to take care of what's already there. But on the other hand, we're hearing people say, well, you buy new parks, open spaces through the TOP program, but you don't do anything with them. So you have competing things here, one of which is take care of what you got, and then way down on the list is build new ones.
Yeah.
But the TOP program, which has been voted in by the voters many times, is to keep buying new spaces. So we can't buy those new spaces and build them out when you also want us to spend more money, I say the city, to maintain the current ones. We only have a certain amount of money.
Yeah.
And it's a shrinking pot of money. Anyway, really interesting stuff here. Definitely suggest everybody go look at this. Check the show notes for the link, or go back and look at my newsletter. If you go to my website, there's a link to previous newsletters. You can click there. I have some thoughts on this whole thing about what it all means, but check that all out. Kevin, what are your thoughts on any surprises to you about this?
No, I'm not actually. I think the bathroom thing is a big deal, especially because so many of our parks, and the main one I'm thinking of is Monument Valley Park, because there's hundreds and hundreds. I mean, it's probably thousands of people go through there every day, and there are restroom facilities that are built there, but they have not been maintained for years. So instead of you go behind the building, there's a porta potty. I don't know the story of why those stopped getting maintained and got replaced with the porta potties, but it's the same thing at a big park that is near me. At least at Bear Creek Park, there are public restrooms there. That's in a building.
And that's a county park, and the county seems to do better with the restroom facilities than the city does.
Yeah, and I just want to know like why were the bathrooms neglected in the first place to where we had to replace their use with the porta potties. I'm assuming there's a lot of reasons for that I don't know, because I know back when the recession happened there was massive cuts made, and I feel like we're still seeing the results of that now.
We are still below the funding that we were before the recession,
which is wild.
The recession was almost 20 years ago now.
Yeah, which is insane. So yeah, I totally agree. I understand why there are environmental concerns for restrooms in North Cheyenne Canyon because of Cheyenne Creek. I'm not smart enough to know exactly like the risk and dangers of the environmental issues there, but yeah, I can see why it's very, very important that we have access to restrooms at these places that a lot of people go to, because if I knew I wanted to go to a popular park, especially Monument Valley Park, and that like, oh, there's the chance there's not going to be a restroom for miles around. Like, do I want to go?
Right.
And stuff, yeah.
Some of the issue with the bathrooms, of course, and one of the concerns people had in this was the homelessness population. Yeah. And they have tended in the past to kind of take those places over, especially at night. And one of the answers is that the city goes and locks them up every night. But of course, that takes personnel to be out there every night to clear them out and lock them up, and then to go back the next day and unlock them. And you still have an issue with a homeless population going in there, locking themselves in there. There is an issue with that, and that's why porta potties have replaced some of those. There was that one bathroom put in the park in Old Colorado City. The name of the park now escaped me, which was like $1 million bathroom, which is designed that you can't stay in there because it opens and closes automatically and stuff like that.
Yeah.
That's a cool thing, but we don't have $1 million per park.
Yeah.
That's ridiculous. If we had money for that, we'd have money to take care of a lot of these other issues. And, you know, the typical Forest Service type pit toilet building, I know some years ago they were around $25,000 to $30,000 a piece just to buy it, not to dig the big hole in the ground.
Oh, really? Okay.
To put them in. So they're expensive too. So porta potties are the way to go. Nobody likes them. They're not the cleanest things in the world. They're not the best thing. There are better ones, or cheaper ones, or, you know, good ones and not so good ones. And, you know, the city recognizes that in a lot of cases your biggest use of those is in the summer, so they put more out in the summer. They are an expense. They said they're about $150 a piece to get it and have it maintained. But on the other hand, I think that's the cost of doing business. You want people to come out and use your parks. You know, you've got to make it so people can come and do their business.
Yeah.
You know, a small neighborhood pocket park, that's a different thing. People are probably there, they can go home. But when you have a park like your bigger parks where you're bringing people in from other parts of town, that's not an option for them. So you've got to be able to offer something for people. And I get it, it costs money. The Parks Department would like to see maybe friends groups pay for those, or HOAs pay for those. Always an option to do something like that. I think it's something that could be done. But again, it's got money coming out of somebody's pocket, whether it's a collective through taxes, or a small group like a friends group or an HOA or a neighborhood group, or just somebody who donates their money to have it happen. It's still money out of your pocket someplace. So,
yep.
Good luck figuring it all out. Anyway, people check that out and keep an eye on what's going on with that. There's going to be a lot more engagement. They hope to have this master plan finalized by the summer. There's going to be a lot of more engagement, a lot of city council involvement. So just keep an eye on that going forward. The other thing is this past, January 1st, there was a fatal to human mountain lion attack that occurred up in the north part of Colorado in Larimer County, which, if you're not familiar with it, that's the Fort Collins area, Estes Park area, Rocky Mountain National Park area. There was a fatal mountain lion attack. It made a lot of news. It is important to, and I put this in one of my, not this past newsletter, the one before that. This was extremely rare.
Very, very rare.
Very rare. The last fatal mountain lion attack, and even that is up for debate, because there's some question about whether it was a mountain lion that caused the child's death or not, although I'm pretty sure it was 25 years ago.
Oh, wow. Okay.
26 years ago.
That long ago. Okay.
Yeah, it's been a long time. And there have been mountain lion attacks on humans in the intervening time, but even those are very rare, very few, very far between. So I caution people to not get too concerned over it. There are millions of people who hike in this state every year, probably tens of thousands every day.
Oh, I'm sure.
Right across the, and as somebody who hikes more than 800 miles a year, I've not seen a mountain lion. I've seen their footprints. I even had one, and their footprints were behind me when I came back on the trail. So they are out there, and I'm not saying there's nothing to be concerned. Never accuse me of saying there's nothing to be worried about. I just don't want this to be overblown. However, the the Colorado Parks and Wildlife came out with an update on their investigation of this attack. There have been a significant amount of increased or above average mountain lion activity in the Larimer County area, specifically around Estes Park, which is where Rocky Mountain National Park is. They believe that it is because of the increased elk and deer population that are on there because they come out of Rocky. If you've ever been to Rocky Mountain National Park, elk, and if you've ever been to Estes Park, herds, it takes 10 seconds to look it up on Google, where herds of elk just wander through town, going from Estes Park and the other mountains.
Dozens of them,
yeah. I mean, when I say herds, I'm not talking 5 or 6. I'm talking 20, 30, 40 of them. They stop traffic. They just wander through town. There's a lot of that activity there. Now, typically, mountain lion interactions with people have typically been with mountain lions that are sick or injured, and they're not able to chase down a deer or an elk. And those animals are very attuned to smelling or sensing that a mountain lion's around, so they'll run off earlier. So they attack a human because we're maybe listening to stuff on our headphones or not paying attention. We're not concerned. So that's when that's typically happened in the past. This was not the case with this incident on January 1st. They were able to track down a couple of mountain lions. They were killed. They were tested. One of them actually had human DNA on it. The other one did not. But neither one of these, and they believe they were male and female from the same family. They were found in close proximity to each other. And as they say in this release, this was not a coincidence. These mountain lions that were found were not sick. They were not rabid, which typically has been an issue too. They were healthy, but they were acting in concert to go after this person. And then after they investigate, they found out that starting back around Halloween, there were a number of attacks on animals by what they believe were these same mountain lions. Some of these were not reported till much later. Some were reported, one was not reported till almost a month later. One was reported the next day. Some were reported the same day. And CPW responded by sending officers out there trying to find them. They posted signs. I mean, what can you do? These mountain lions are nomadic. So, they post signs, be aware of these things, and everybody should be. And then there's a map here with the mountain lion encounters, conflicts in 2025, and there are a lot of them in this area. They're not saying in here that there's much going on anywhere else in the state. There are mountain lions throughout the entire state of Colorado.
Oh, yeah.
If you have hiked in Colorado in the backcountry, you have probably been observed and probably been tracked by a mountain lion. We are not typically what they want for dinner. They want a deer. They want something they could take down pretty easily. Typically, deer, you'll find, I've hiked on trails and found a carcass of a deer. It was taken down by a mountain lion.
Same here, yeah.
If you're closer to town, probably taken down by a coyote, but that happens a lot. Typically, humans are not what they want. There are a lot of stuff going on. And they also note in here that they go after deer and elk because they are solitary and reclusive. So it's one deer, one elk out there, except for, Estes Park where they roam through there in herds. They're easier to take down. People typically are usually out there in groups and stuff, harder to take down. So in any case, while I'm going to continue to say that it's not a thing that you should be frightened of to the point where you don't go out, unless you're going to go to Larimer County. And I will say, I'm going to change my tune a little bit. With the activity amount in Larimer County, I'd be a little concerned. Now, there has been nothing reported up there since this fatal attack on January 1st. So it's possible that these two may have been some of the causes, some of the more egregious attacks that have happened up there, these 2 or 3. However, be aware of your surroundings. Don't wear headphones, especially noise-canceling headphones. Do not wear those. I wear the ones that are bone conduction. My ears are always open. I always hear what's going on around me. I keep it turned down. Go in groups. And if you're out there with children, keep the children between the adults. Don't let the children get ahead. Children are small. They're easier to take down or get behind you. Keep your dogs on leash. These other attacks that have happened with dogs were all dogs that were off leash. They may have been legal where they were, but it's still a bad idea. A dog off leash is something you can't control. And if you're in close proximity to your dog on a leash, mountain lion's less likely to attack your dog. If you see a mountain lion, make a lot of noise. Some of these other incidents where people encounter mountain lions, they made a lot of noise. They threw rocks at the mountain lions and eventually scared them off. They don't want to be bothered. Be prepared to fight back. If it gets to be it, just fight. None of this cover up your head or anything like this. Fight, fight, fight.
And apparently it's actually a good thing to go after their throats because it's like a weak spot of theirs. And yeah, it just makes it harder to...
Well, when they go after people or animals, they go after throats. They go after the windpipe. Same thing if you're attacked by them. If you're at home, don't feed wildlife. And I live in the middle of the city, and I have raccoons through my yard all summer. We don't feed them, but they come through here. That attracts. And I've actually had a bobcat here in the middle of Colorado Springs walk up my driveway. I've caught it on camera. So you may want to watch out for deer, raccoons, and stuff that may be attractive if you have bird feeders and stuff in your house, in your yard. Remove thick bushes and low tree branches from your yard because that's cover for them. There was an incident some years ago in Grand Junction where a girl was attacked. That was actually a bear, not a mountain lion, but the same thing applies. Was attacked by a bear in her backyard. And it was because she opened the back door, startled the bear, and attacked her. Well, the bear was in her backyard going into her garbage can to get food.
Okay.
So I know that's a bear, this is a mountain lion, but the same thing. They're always after food. So if you have food source near where you're going to be, there's probably going to be a wild animal that's going to come after that food source. That's going to be a sense or a source of conflict. People say, I'm going to carry a gun with me. Okay, I carry a gun sometimes when I go hiking. I have a permit to carry concealed weapon, or you don't need one to carry open if you're legally allowed to have a gun. But remember, if you're attacked, your chances of getting that gun out and actually shooting something are pretty slim. If you see one at a distance and it's coming at you, you may be able to draw down and you're going to be scared, whatless. And being able to, unless you practice a lot of people don't practice with their weapons as much as they should, actually hitting anything, but it'll make a lot of noise. It might still work. But what I'm saying is, if you're actually physically attacked, your chances of getting your gun drawn and shooting the animal that's attacking you is pretty slim. So do not count on that as being your deterrent.
I've read a lot of debates on forums online because I've thought about a gun too. But yeah, the chance of suddenly you're alerted to the fact that an animal is running towards you, your reaction time and the ability to target it correctly.
Well, you're scared to death.
Yeah, like in a panic mode. The use of bear spray is much more effective because that's much more wider spread. That can reach a distance of 40 feet if you have the right kind.
Don't spray into the wind.
Yeah, oh yeah. But a gun can just be much more dangerous to use because you have to be like Rambo in that moment and calm and collected. You have to know exactly the right spot to aim. When a mountain lion is chasing after you and you're in a moment of a panic, you'll probably miss or hit a part of the mountain lion that it's not going to face. And the other argument that I saw was that to have a gun that's effective towards a mountain lion or a bear would be a caliber that's so heavy that it would just be a pain to carry for a long hike.
Nobody wants to carry a 50 caliber Desert Eagle.
Oh yeah, no.
With them. And I'll say this, a lot of people in Colorado own guns. Many people have concealed carry permits, or they carry without a permit if you carry open. I would ask you, if you're one of those people, when was the last time you went to the shooting range
Exactly.
and just target it at a non-moving stationary target at 21 feet. The typical 7-yard thing. And by the way, if that mountain lion is 7 yards away from you, it is far too late.
Oh, yeah.
That 7 yards was based on human interaction, police interactions. If you're shooting at something that's 7 yards away and you're not getting it there and it's not moving, when was the last time you went out and took your gun out and cleaned it? And I go out there not nearly as often as I should. I go out with a friend of mine and we go out shooting at the target range, and it's the first 20 rounds I'm just getting back to where I should be in the target.
Oh, I bet, yeah.
And I was ex-military, and I got 2 marksmanship medals, and I'm still, it takes a while to get back to where you should be. So I'm not telling anybody not to carry anything. I'm not telling you what to carry. Bear spray is not a bad idea. I don't carry bear spray because I don't think it's necessary for bears. I think that that our black bears are way too timid. It's heavy. But again, if you feel comfortable carrying it, by all means carry it. Sometimes I carry my gun, sometimes I don't. And I have a small, lightweight pistol. It is still heavy to carry.
Oh,
so I don't always carry my gun because sometimes I just don't want to be bothered with it. And I'm not that worried about it. But I'm not going to tell anybody to do something or not do anything, but just be realistic about what you think your chances are if you're going to carry a gun or bear spray to get it drawn and get it aimed and get it discharged with something that you may not see until it's already on top of you. Be realistic about it. And if you're carrying a rifle or a shotgun, your chances are how you going to,
Oh, yeah.
So anyway, I'm not advocating for anything. What my point here is to just be very much realistic. Like we talked about people planning on hiking trips and backpacking trips. Be very realistic about your abilities before you embark on something new. The same thing applies here. I still think that in most parts of the state, you're very safe.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
There's plenty of food out there for mountain lions. I would be concerned if I was in Larimer County, and I'll send the link out to this thing, and you can see all these places where there were mountain lion encounters, and there's quite a few in that county for whatever reason. Is there cause to be concerned? I think as much as I hike by myself due to just necessity, and I don't always have somebody to go hiking with, I've hiked the mountain where this fatal attack occurred. I've hiked from one end to the other on that mountain. Didn't have an issue. It was in early summer. I would be less inclined to go by myself on that hike now with knowing what's going on there. I don't think I wouldn't go, but I would probably make somebody go with me, and I would probably leave Cole behind. Even though he's a bigger dog, I would probably leave him behind. I would definitely not let him off leash, but I would probably leave him behind because he would look like a target for mountain lions that seem to be very active in this area. I think the investigation and the follow-up, the update to this, it's a very long news release. I think everybody should read it and get an idea of what we're talking about in here. I get a lot of people email me during the year. I'm worried about bears, and I always tell them I wouldn't worry a whole lot about the bears. And I've always said mountain lions, and even then I said I wouldn't worry too much about them. I still, again, in this part of the state, I'm not overly concerned, but I would be if I were going to be going up to the Fort Collins, Estes Park, Rocky Mountain National Park, that way. I would be a little more. I would just take a couple more steps to make sure I had a safe hike. I would still go, but I'd take you with me, Kevin.
Oh, yeah.
Except you can run faster than me. I don't know if that's a good idea. Maybe I don't want to take somebody who can run faster than me.
I've been on at least 3 or 4 hikes where I know for sure, thanks to the snow in the area, that I was followed by a mountain lion, or a mountain lion was in the area that I was after I was there. It's definitely a freaky feeling.
It's unsettling.
Yeah, and I know my friends and I in the Grand Canyon at night were watched by a mountain lion, but obviously because we were a group, like the mountain lion just sat there and it watched us.
He was looking at it, who's the slow one?
Yeah. I have seen remains, activities of bears in the area. I have ran into moose, which has been the scariest for me.
Because they're the size of a car.
Yeah, they're huge. And I've ran into elk. I've ran into coyotes. I did make eye contact with the bobcat once, which was cool. But I was just like, just don't follow me. Thank you.
And what did all those animals do when you saw them?
The majority of them took off.
Right.
And stuff, yeah.
That's what makes this so unusual.
Yeah, and yeah, I just want to repeat what Bob has said, it's like this stuff is rare, which is why when you see a mountain lion attack in the news or a bear attack or a shark attack, it becomes such big news because it's so rare. Yeah. It doesn't mean it happens all the time. It's just it's so rare that when it does happen, then it makes the news,
and justifiably so. Because people, yeah. I think that some people see that and they go, "Oh, I'm never going to go hiking again. I'm going to get attacked by a mountain lion." Millions of people hike in Colorado and never even see one. I've never seen one in the wild with as much hiking as I do. And now, I make a lot of noise. I have a stinky dog with me and stuff, but so do most other people. They hike just like you and I do, with stuff jangling around in their packs and probably a dog with them or something, and never ever even see one.
I've actually seen more bears from my car.
Yeah.
And I've seen a mountain lion from my car. It was at the trailhead of the Palmer Reservoir Trail. And this was years ago, but the mountain lion was just sitting down on at the front of the trailhead, just chilling. So my friend and I were like, "Well, we're gonna go hike somewhere else."
Well, there was the incident 2 years ago. Or was it last spring? Last spring or spring before, when there was that mountain lion in a tree in Garden of the Gods.
Oh, I forgot about that.
It was sitting up in this tree. It was there for an entire day. Now, they kept people away from it to a degree, but it didn't bother anybody. What the theory was that it probably had attacked and killed a deer. The deer, because what they'll do is they'll eat what they can and then they hide it someplace and protect. It was probably protecting a deer kill that was nearby. It didn't bother the people at all.
Oh.
Now, they kept people away from it, kept an eye on it. They didn't haze it. It eventually left.
Yep.
Again, I'm not trying to tell anybody that nothing is ever going to happen to you. Nobody in their right mind would ever make that suggestion that you're going to be fine. Nothing's ever going to happen. We've talked about the number of accidents that happen to people on things, whether you're the best equipped person or the least equipped person or the least knowledgeable. Anything can happen to anybody. We're not going to say that this is not going to happen to you. I just don't want people to be so concerned that they decide they're never going to go out in the outdoors.
Oh, yeah.
If you've been here any number of years and you've hiked hundreds of miles, think to yourself, when was the last time I saw anything? You probably can't think of anything.
And I have hiked at times in locations where I would be, it would be the prime time and spot to spot a mountain lion or a bear and stuff, and it's never happened. And I will say a favorite story of mine is one time I was hiking on the St. Mary's Falls Trail. Mm-hmm. And I went off trail to use the restroom, and I found a nice tree to stand by. And while I'm doing my business, I look up and I see the remains of a deer in the tree. Yeah. At that time, I didn't know that that's what mountain lions did, was that they would stash their remains in the trees.
Because the coyotes can't climb trees.
Yeah, and talk about, I was just like, oh no, the Blair Witch is real.
Anyway, people, just again, keep your head on a swivel. Be aware of what's going on. Do not wear these I don't like the Apple earbuds. Those earbuds that go in are noise canceling. You can't hear anything that's going on around you. Don't wear those. You shouldn't wear those anyway. You can't hear other people. You can't hear anything that's going on. Don't wear those out there. I wear. They're made by a company called Shocks. I'm not, promoting any one brand. I like theirs the best because they just fit well. They sit in front of your ear. They're bone conduction. Your ears are still open. If you don't turn them all the way up, you can still hear anything going on around you. If you're going to wear anything, wear those. Don't wear the things that go in your ears because then you can't hear what's going on. I know you probably don't want to hear the guy next to you who's hiking with you. Don't go hiking with them. But anyway, just be aware of what's going on out there. Your spidey senses, keep them up. Keep your head on a swivel. If you're hiking with your dog and they're acting weird, there's a reason why they're acting weird. I know when Cole senses, he goes nuts when there's a deer nearby, and he knows it long before I do. And I know how to catch his behavior, know there's going to be deer, and I need to hang on to him because he wants to chase deer all over the place. If you got a pet that you go hiking with, pay attention to what they're doing. They're going to know, especially dogs with their sense of smell so much better than ours. They're going to know what's going on long before you see anything. He has gone nuts because there's a deer nearby, and all I see after looking is two little antlers sticking up out of the scrub oak, and that's all I could see.
Yeah.
But he knows they're there. So pay attention to that kind of stuff. One other thing I want to talk to people about. Usually we talk about how people can go on Patreon and help support this podcast.
Yeah.
And that's been a great amount of support for us. It helped pay the bills every month. We could always use some more because it's also bought some of the new equipment. We're using a couple of new microphones, a new recorder here, thanks to the people at Patreon. It'll enable us to do more things. Anyway, we're changing up the Patreon rewards that we've been offering. If you're an existing person, you still get whatever you signed up for. But we're going to shift things. So anybody who, going forward, Patreon subscribers or supporters, they're going to get a special podcast limited only to Patreon subscribers once a month with me and Kevin. There may be an occasion when it may be just me, but me and Kevin will do a special Patreon, and it's not going to be a full-length one, pretty much. It's going to be a little shorter. And we're also going to do this where we're going to ask the Patreon subscribers to submit their questions to us. So you can sign up, and we'll do like a Q&A type of a thing. So send in your questions. We'll answer them on the special Patreon-only podcast. That'll be in addition to ones we normally do during the month. So for those of you who would like to help support this podcast, here's your incentive to do it. I'm going to offer you one more thing. The first 5 people who sign up at the $10 or higher level will also get my 2025 photo calendar. I do a calendar every year, and Patreon subscribers, paying subscribers, get a free calendar every year, valued at about $15. If you sign up at the $10 or more Patreon level, you're also going to get my 2025 calendar. This year's theme was covered bridges from back east.
And I've seen it. It's amazing.
And Kevin got a copy of it. So the next 5 people who sign up, because I only have a few left, will get a free calendar as a thanks. That'll be at the $10 or higher level to get the calendar. So if you sign up for that, you get a free prize. If you're a paying subscriber at the end of the year, you're going to get one also. Whatever's the theme for the following year. But in any case, that's the changes we're going to make. So it's going to be a monthly podcast, short one with Kevin and I. What we'd like to do is a Q&A. We'll send out a reminder email to the Patreon subscribers. Hey, we're going to do a Q&A. Have your questions in by this date, and then we'll answer them online. And we'll try to do, if we can squeeze in, maybe even do a live version of this.
Okay.
That's a little harder to do. Not everybody can work on the same schedule. The beauty of a podcast, obviously, do it on your own schedule. But anyway, that's something we want to do. So keep an eye out for that. But that's what we're going to offer Patreon moving forward. It's going to be more of a specialized, keep it in with the podcast whole theme. So, Kevin, we've taken a lot of time from people. Do you have anything you wanted to bring up? You mentioned earlier you had something, but you weren't sure you were going to remember what it was.
I do not remember, but I'm sure I will as soon as I leave here.
As soon as I shut off everything, unplug everything. Well, that's okay. Kevin, again, thank you for being on here. We have a couple of interviews that have been done and are scheduled for the next couple of weeks, so I'm not sure when we'll see Kevin again, but it won't be that long. I always squeeze Kevin in. I don't want to go too long without squeezing Kevin in. But we have some interviews. We've recorded 2 more are scheduled coming up, so there's going to be some interesting guests going to be on the podcast the next couple of weeks, so keep an eye out for those. And as always, check out my website at hikingbob.com. Check out Kevin's at wildwestendorf.com. Send us your questions, comments, thoughts, suggestions. Subscribe to our feeds. Send us money if you want to be it. Go to Patreon, patreon.com/hikingbob, and help support the podcast and get some special stuff that only subscribers will get.
Yeah.
Well, Kevin, thanks a lot.
Thank you.
All right, everybody. Thanks for listening to the Outdoors Hiking Bob podcast. We'll talk to you next time.
We'll talk to you later.
See ya.